Zuma was right.
About
because
what?
he was very big on BRICS. He was speaking nuclear. And Cyril tried to do what you're saying he was trying to do, and he failed. And now he's going to that Zuma thing of BRICS and potentially nuclear.
Zuma was right, yes, but Zuma had a problem. Zuma was, he spoke the right words, but ideologically he was ideologically bankrupt. I'll tell you the reasons why. Mcebisi, what's his name?
Jonas?
No.
Des van Rooyen?
No. The young man who was part and parcel of the Fees Must Fall.
Cebo
Dlamini. He was arrested under Zuma. Gaddafi was murdered under Zuma after Zuma voted with the North Atlantic treaty with NATO.
But weren't they close, Zuma no Gaddafi?
How can you be close with somebody you vote against? How?
There's rumors that Zuma's got a property in Dubai and some of it is Gaddafi's money. And some of Gaddafi's money apparently is Eswatini as well.
Remember, they used to say Mugabe also had palaces in Scotland and palaces all across the world.
Sure.
Mugabe's wife is still living in Zimbabwe today, even though she fell out with the current president at some point.
Sure.
She lives in Zimbabwe today. She could have gone to live in Scotland. She could have gone to live anywhere. She's been removed from the sanctions list. She's in Zim.
Okay.
So there was an allegation that she had properties all across the world. There's no evidence to that at this particular moment. Zuma is there in Ngandla. When they arrested him, why didn't he run to Dubai where they said? So I don't know. I don't believe that. But I question Zuma's integrity.
You're saying he was ideologically bankrupt?
Ideologically bankrupt. How do Fees Must Fall arrests happen under a watch of a person that is left leaning? How does Gaddafi get killed by the vote of your own Minister of Foreign Affairs and your what you call it, your diplomat within the UN? How do you have Marikana and the shooting of black people for asking for wages to be increased happen under your leadership? How does Julius Malema get ejected from the ANC for asking his elders to undertake land reform?
Sure, and nationalization.
Exactly, and nationalization. Then you say you're radical economic transformation. Sure. So why was Julius Malema removed from the ANC if that's the case? So that ideological imbalance makes me wonder whether Zuma was actually serious about any of the things that he said he wanted to do. And why didn't he execute? It's one thing to want to do radical economic transformation. It's another thing to do it.
Was he not scared of destabilizing the economy because of the power hold of the West?
I always say to people, the South African economy is destabilized already. I'll tell you why. This morning, I wrote a tweet in which I was saying, South Africa is the richest country in Africa for whites, who, when you look at 7 million whites controlling 93% of the South African economy, their income per capita is over $56,000 every year. That's American level, US level. But the black South Africans, who constitute 54 million people in South Africa, have to share 7% of the economy. And when you look at that income per capita per person, it's $550 a year. That means black South Africans have a lower income per capita than any other African country. So they're the poorest Africans, so to speak. That's destabilized already.
You've said this before, and I remember it was one of the things we had to discuss, that you've said, and this is important for me as a black South African. Black South Africans pride themselves almost on having the best whites on the continent. We had whites that built Eskom and Sasol, and that's why we're better than you, and we beat our chests. But your argument is, sure, you guys live in Sandton, or we say you live in Sandton, but you actually in Alex. And now let's compare Alex to what you claim are poorer blacks in Nigeria, the Congo, Sudan, and they actually live better than you. Black people are not doing that like for like comparison. Yeah. We're boasting about, oh, look at Wits University. You never built Wits. And its greatness comes from the white Jewish business people. Boast about, they didn't even build Forte, but boast about an institution you've built. And you're basically saying black people in South Africa, who are 80%, only own 7% of the economy. And when you split it, it's $550 per black person. And white people, and I think in your tweet you also spoke about Indians, they control 93% of the economy. And per person, that's about $56,000.
Yes.
We're living in two different worlds.
Two different worlds. And remember, what many black South Africans don't understand when I comment is that I am literally a black South African because I've lived the black South African life. I've lived a life where the house that I'm living in wasn't mine. The car that I was driving outside wasn't mine. The clothes I was wearing belonged to a clothing retailer who I'm still paying. The perfume I'm using was also from Edgar's. And sometimes the groceries that I'm eating were bought by credit card at Woolies. And at that time, when I used to go to Zimbabwe, I would get to Zimbabwe and I'd take out my rands, and Zimbabweans would say, don't worry about your rands. We know you don't have money. because these guys, I'm sitting in his house. He owns the house that we're sitting in. He's got cows at the village or his farm. He's got cars. Every car in his parking lot is his. His children go to expensive private schools, and everything that he's doing is paying cash.
One of the scariest realizations that I had. So I think the bulk of South Africans, 70%, I could be wrong, 70% of their income goes to servicing debt. People that live in villages in South Africa, from an accounting perspective, net worth, assets minus liabilities, are wealthier than most of us living in nice homes in the city, because assets minus liabilities, the guy with 3 cows and a hut and 2 hectares of land is wealthier than me, because I'm in this nice house, I've got this nice car.
You got it.
But I've got a negative because I'm enslaved for 20 years for the house, maybe 6-7 years for the car, and even after that there's still insurance, and it's sobering. And whoever brought debt, credit, not just to the continent but to the world, were the people that probably convinced slave owners, Guti, we've actually found a better system. Take off the chains, they'll chain themselves and they'll chase debt and poverty, and they'll work hard and they'll have anxiety and depression and commit suicide. But you'll be like, look, it's their choice. We weren't involved. He wants